Let's watch another CNN panel discussing Matt Gaetz, RFK Jr., and the wonderful diversity we've seen in Trump's recent cabinet appointment picks. Oh, wait, of course, it's the lack thereof diversity that we're seeing, which is kind of funny to me because if someone were to pick an all-black cabinet, the right would instantly scream this is DEI and they're unqualified. But when Trump picks an all-white cabinet, nobody has any questions about qualifications, which should speak volumes, should kind of give the game away about the implications of people who have a problem with DEI. But I've lined up these clips for us, and we can knock them out one by one.
This is a guy who used Chinese propaganda to question witnesses. He didn't even know the difference between Chinese propaganda and real sourcing. So do you want an AG up there who doesn't even know the difference between some fake rag that's coming out of China or real source material? And I think, again, that goes back to you just got to call into question. There's other nominees out there. By the way, how many people voted for Donald Trump? 79 million people? There are 78,999,999 people more qualified than Matt Gaetz. Every single person that voted for Trump is better than Matt Gaetz.
This is actually a really strong point, and it's one that I had not thought of myself, despite covering this on the channel a few months ago. We've seen Matt Gaetz in investigations. I mean, Republicans spent 2 years doing pretty much no legislation, only spending their time in the House trying to open investigations to impeach Biden. And we saw Matt Gaetz make tons of claims that he later couldn't substantiate with evidence. We saw him put forth non-credible evidence and witnesses, one of whom later ended up being a Chinese propagandist. And then we went on to find out that Matt Gaetz and Republicans knew this and still took his testimony and spread it as fact, knowing it was more than likely not credible. We could also go into the fact that Gaetz bought into the 2020 election fraud lies without ever releasing evidence, without ever seeing any evidence because the evidence doesn't exist. And, multiple parts of that has now thoroughly been debunked, but he still pushes that. Then the question becomes, and it should be from either side, is this really someone with the character, morality, experience, qualifications that we should want as the attorneys general of the United States, someone this unqualified, this likely to be compromised, and who has shown this level of inability to perform the core functions of the job? Why would we do this?
Saying RFK Jr. has diversity of thought, I think, is like saying Jeffrey Dahmer had cuisine differences. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? And I think if insanity and diversity of thought are synonyms now, I think that's where we're at. Also, if you're looking at past performance is indicative of future performance, and Donald Trump ran all the competent people out of his last administration. I mean, we've gone from Mattis to Hegseth. So to me, this isn't really a surprise. These are loyalists. And if you look at their background, they are opinions. I absolutely agree with you, but they're informed opinions based on resumes, CVs, and what they've done in their past and what their past decisions have been. That's how you judge people. And when you look at what Donald Trump's doing right now, I think he fears people like Hirschman. He fears people like Mattis. He fears people like the lawyers. He fears people like Sarah Matthews, right, that were up there and said, hey, this is the shite that's going on right now, and there's something we got to do about it. And I think he's picking people now that are loyal. I think he learned a lesson. I think it's not DEI hires. I think it's BTK hires. I think it's been the need.
Another very well flushed out point here to touch on, if you just look at Trump's last cabinet picks, like back in 2016 versus the one he's making now, it's like the drop off in qualifications and experience is massive, where even if he did eventually run off the qualified people that he had in his first term, he at least adhered to a standard of knowledge in who he chose to appoint. And now it's all that's out the window, and the only thing that matters is loyalty, which is scary because it's not how the government is set up to work. It's not supposed to operate at the complete behest of the president. We are not a monarchy. I can't believe how much MAGA wants a monarchy, right? We have these separate but equal branches of government that provide checks and balances to each other. It's not supposed to be the president overall. These appointments that provide knowledge and expertise in certain fields, this is the point of these cabinet appointments, is to be advised by people who know more about specific thing than you, not to have people who are just going to listen to you, right? That's kind of the point of a cabinet, or else the president could just do it all himself. But now instead, Trump wants these other branches to serve him. He wants his appointments to never question him, which is fascistic and also inherently pulls away from the democratic foundations of our country.
Investigate
Just
this.
to be clear, this investigation began under Donald Trump.
Okay, and all during, the bottom line is the DOJ said there's nothing there.
No, they
That's,
didn't.
yes, they did.
They said they didn't have enough to indict. That shouldn't be the
No,
standard.
to charge, dear.
Okay,
no,
first year.
no,
Excuse
yes,
me.
yeah.
Oh, well,
right.
thank you for the response. Okay, that's
Hold on. I'm just going to stop it right here because we're not going to get off on a wrong foot. Please do not address a grown woman as dear in a condescending tone. Do not do that at my table.
Now, I added this clip in partly because, him getting called out at the end there for being a condescending asshole is great, but there's also a lot that can be taken from it as well. The investigations into Gaetz did start under Trump's DOJ. So this idea that the Biden DOJ created this to attack more Republicans and those people close to Trump is just silly. It's not based in reality at all, but it won't stop MAGA from saying it, however. But also this framing that MAGA has created in multiple instances now that they love to push, that it's like not being indicted means innocence is really silly. And it just lacks fundamental understanding of the legal system, where it's actually a lot more complex, which I know, surprising, right? Than this like very juvenile way to look at it, where indict if guilty, don't indict if not guilty. There's actually a lot more complex layers to this. There's multiple layers of reasons why an AG may or may not indict, and that's in normal situations. There's even more when you add in this atmosphere that we're seeing with like politicians, like the political nature of some of these and these kinds of things, where a lot of the times they'll choose not to indict because of recommendations of how they should act, or what the department thinks would be best, rather than what they actually think in terms of like guilt, right? Which is, you could say maybe that's one of the problems of our legal system, right? But that's just how it works. Like this famously happened with the Mueller report, right? Where Mueller said Trump at minimum could be charged with obstruction of justice, that he possibly could even be charged with more, but that the DOJ's recommendation was to not indict a sitting president, so he was not going to indict Trump. MAGA then took this and construed it to where even now, you'll hear this and like it'll be just parroted as if it's the truth. And a lot of people on the left have conceded this as well, which is why it just shows me that even people on the left, especially people on the right, just don't read things. They kind of just go off the vibes to like get what they think is like the truth and like just common consensus, right? Because MAGA took the Mueller report and construed it to be like, oh, look, the Mueller report even said Trump is innocent, even said Trump didn't do anything. When what it actually kind of said was completely the opposite, especially when you also get into the weeds of it saying like Trump Jr. and these goons were pretty openly colluding with Russia, but willful intent couldn't be proven. I mean, most of the people who say these things, again, have never read the actual report, but that's just how MAGA operates. It skip all context, skip all facts, all the data, all the understanding, and just take out whatever I can from the end or any part that I can cherry pick and hyperfixate on and frame in a way that helps the narrative that I want to be true. It's tiring and it's really low intelligence behavior, right? Where when you should be searching for the facts and the truth, MAGA instead only searches for confirmation, and then everything else is just fake news.